What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be installing the 1JZ-GTE VVT-i in our Lexus Is300. If you guys haven't got entered for a chance to win this thing, head over to motionautoTV.com. Every dollar you spend on merchandise is an automatic entry for a chance to win this thing, and we are doing 10 times entries. I'd also like to let you guys know that this video is sponsored by Pennzoil, but let's get into it.
We make the streams.
Yeah, that is good. Nice bearings.
Yep. Sean, buddy, what is that?
Oh, buddy, this is all the ABS crap.
So, complete ABS unit was right here in the way. See this thing? It's pretty much right there, which is pretty much right where our turbo and all that stuff needs to go. So, we have the valve covers outside. We're cleaning all that stuff up. Sean yesterday got the whole timing belt, water pump, all these pulleys, painted the pulleys, made it look a little bit better, and need to continue that with the rest of it today. But before he got started with that, went ahead and started removing this whole ABS system right there. We're actually installing this chase base kit. So this apologize. Little brake proportioning valve, and then it just runs some braided lines. So in my Supra we have ABS delete, and in this 4-door Supra we got an ABS delete. All right guys, so the engine is all pressure washed and clean. The transmission is pressure washed and clean. Put that thing outside. We have the Is300 engine mount isolators, the rubber isolators swapped over because the ones off of this thing were shot. So we have the original Is300 motor mounts off of there. The original JZX110 brackets though. So those should be all good. AC lines look like they're gonna fit, and all this wiring, we're leaving it on this thing because everything is pretty much the same. It looks the same. We should technically be able to get it running. Think it'll be able to run? Can we start it today?
I don't know about today, but I hope it runs.
It should run. So here's the engine bay ECU box out of that one. And see this wiring right here, these two plugs? These go to the two plugs right here on the end. Kind of the same thing over here on this thing. It has two plugs on the end that go to the chassis. So we're gonna have to like de-pin and rewire a couple of these things to those pins essentially.
What is it for, like the dash and stuff?
Yeah, like dash and wiring, and then I think a couple pins are different right here, but you almost just kind of, I don't know.
Well, it needs signal and stuff. I don't know how to, I don't know, I've never done one of these.
Well, we're gonna figure it out quick, is what we're gonna do. We're gonna figure it out really quick, because this engine is gonna go in and bolt in there, and it's just crazy. It's like this chassis was just meant to have one of these engines in it. Even with the engine bay ECU box, it's literally the same. It's all the same stuff. There is slight wiring differences. We might run into an issue with like the fuel pump and then the fuel gauge, maybe the coolant temp gauge, a couple minor little things like that, and the fact that it'll probably have a check engine light because it's an auto ECU and this is an auto chassis, and we are going to be running a manual transmission with it. Let's just go ahead. Let's just go ahead and get it slapped in there, get it bolted down, and then we're actually gonna put the transmission in the car so we don't have to worry about kind of doing the whole crazy thing. And I guess we're gonna figure it out. Yep, let's go ahead. Guys, and just like that, she's in the engine bay, ready to go. So since the motor mounts are they're a little bit rocky right now, so we went ahead and just put a slat of wood right there in the front of the engine. Now pretty much this engine wiring literally just come right over Just go right there.
Yeah, what ECU do you want here?
This one, out of that thing. And then we need to basically take that box apart and look at the different, like the differences.
Colors?
And then we'll probably have to splice like that harness into this harness right here. And then we should be good to go. And it should run on the stock ECU. And then if we want to, we could get an ECU master plug and play. If this doesn't work, if this works, we could just leave it. Stock ECU. Let it rip. Look at that. Right now you can see this is the factory harness right here. And this is obviously the 1J harness. So these things plug straight in.
Because that's the ECU for it.
Yep. So that, like, this is the ECU that went with the engine, obviously. Yeah. And this is the wiring harness that went with this engine. So this makes sense. So really the things that we need to adapt.
So this is the body plug that came
from the JZX-110
or whatever. Yep. So obviously those plug in here as they should.
But these ones this is the OEM 2JZ ECU. Those do not plug into here, but we have this harness, which we're pretty lucky to have that harness actually. And then also you could see right here, this is the body control stuff. So you could see on the back, we could actually plug in all of these things. So I think that one plugs in there. This one plugs in here. So technically, like, everything plugs in, it clips in, all that stuff.
Well, this clips in, but
except for,
assuming the color corresponds to like the same sensor or signal wire, whatever it is, then we can basically just unpin this, pin this into it.
Yeah, essentially we could depin these, pin it into here, and not really have to cut anything.
Yeah, I don't want to, you could take and splice this and have, 30 splices or whatever. That's just ridiculous when you can just...
But I don't even think we need to have that, because I think a lot of this is the auto tranny stuff.
Yeah, so we'll eliminate that first and foremost, and then kind of go from there with what's left. Because obviously you can tell there's a bunch more wires in this plug than in this plug. So you're probably right in saying that that's a lot.
Well, and I think that there's only one wire technically over here that needs something, and then I think there's like 3 or 4 wires right here. If all else failed and we weren't able to get it, like, we could technically like make it run. Like off of the ignition and everything else until we figured out like the proper thing. But I think we'll probably just start it from the beginning. I think it'd be cool, like, the first time we turn the key, that it starts.
Yeah.
And then also in here too, you can see there's some thick ones.
Like signals and ground or something.
Yeah, so like right here on the back, there's that black and red, or the black and white, and then the black and yellow. One of those is like for the starter, and one's for something else, like some power for some other things. Yeah, it's cool seeing it in there. I mean, it just looks like it was meant to be. So now we're gonna go up with the lift. I want to just look at some things underneath it real quick and just double check and make sure like the fuel lines and stuff are gonna work properly. Other than that, like, if we could figure out this ECU, like, I have the radiator, I have, the clutch, hopefully the transmission and the drive shaft, we don't have any issues with that. Yeah. We have the pedal. Really all we need to do is make some plumbing and hook up the fuel lines and like turn the key, and this thing would be like running and driving. Yeah. Technically. Yeah, I'm just stoked to see this thing in here finally. And now that this thing is all painted and looking nice, we're gonna start actually busting this thing out pretty quick and get it running and driving. All right guys, so now the clutch is up in here, or it's looking like it's getting ready to go up in here. So we have a lightweight competition flywheel with some ARP hardware. And then we have this 6-puck disc with the springs in it. And then we have the pressure plate disc right there. We found some new bolts for it to put in there, and basically just get that clutch in there, and then we can stick this in. So this is actually a W58 transmission out of a 96 Toyota Supra. So it's a Toyota Supra W58 to go along with the, to go along with this. The Supra W58s I think are a little bit better than the non-Supra W58s. I hope that this whole little tail shaft thing works.
Buddy, this is a nice tranny, and you haven't even blown it yet.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna go in there, and then we're gonna see if the drive shaft from the Supra works in here, but it probably doesn't. But maybe it will. But we got to figure all that stuff out. But yeah, I definitely know that the Supra W58s are better than W55s that come in a manual in here.
How much oil's in this thing?
Probably enough. Did you already pull this thing out, or were you getting ready to?
No, I haven't touched it.
Oh yeah. We'll give her a try. We'll figure it out, and then you guys will actually be the second to know, because we will be the first.
How was your?
So Sean decided to go ahead and pull the engine back out of the car because these ISs have this cool removable radiator support. So it comes out, and you could just...
Did we tell him the tranny situation?
What?
When it was in there trying to put it up?
Yeah, so the bell housing thing, it was just kind of touching the edge, and you just couldn't get it up.
It just wouldn't, yeah.
There wasn't enough space. That's probably why they have the removable thing, so you could just go
Well, yeah, because at first I was gonna just move the engine forward, lift it up, move it forward, put the tranny on underneath, but I didn't want to fight like the tranny jack and then the hoist from underneath the car, and so I just said, let's just pull it out, put it together, and we'll just plow it in there.
And then now,
Here we go.
Here we go. Transmission, ready to go. Engine, ready to go. This thing
battery doing?
is gonna be ready to go.
Oh, buddy, it's 4 to 1.
We got a battery saver. Engine and transmission are back in the car, and we ran into probably our first issue of the whole swap.
Yeah,
would you say? So if you want to go ahead, do you want to give this a push? Or if you guys could tell,
I'll give it a push.
basically this transmission, it sits too far back. So you can see right there. So essentially it needs to be 2 inches. We need to move it forward 2 inches. Cut this rod 2 inches, cut this 2 inches, cut this to where it lines up with everything else.
My only concern is that there's only so much of this rod because
that's go in and out.
we have to make sure that still clears. That's all the way, that's in the gears, so.
Unless we could figure out like if the one off of the top of a W55 would fit in here, but then we also don't have a W55.
We can make this one work.
Oh yeah, I mean it's gonna have to.
Yeah.
The next thing I'd like to do is we should test the drive shaft, figure out the drive shaft, and then we could pull this out and then do all this stuff on the ground.
Well, I think, yeah, or just do it, just take this off. Probably do it on the ground.
Probably just do it on the ground, because I want it like that shaft. Yeah, we'll just do it on the ground. We know it needs to be moved forward 2 inches, so we'll just move her forward 2 inches, and she'll be good to go. She'll be good to go, and she'll also be ready to rip. All right, guys. So we got the transmission back out, and this is what we got to do. So basically, just gonna mark out 2 inches, cut it.
Yep, we're gonna cut this, get rid of these, cut this, and then basically, obviously, the angle's gonna change.
But we'll
So we're gonna
probably
have to
just
shorten
do
these.
this one first.
We'll do this one first, put it where it goes, and we'll kind of get an idea of the best place to reattach these to that, because the angle's obviously gonna change on these. They're gonna need to be shortened a little bit, and then this will be where it needs to be. So this thing, that's all the way forward, so we should be able to get by. That's gonna be pretty close to right here where this hole's at, but I think there's plenty of clearance because that's fully in. Yep. As far as your bottom gears, your back gears, your 2, 4.
Yeah, and we'll test all this stuff before we stick it in,
Yeah.
obviously, so it'll work right. If it works right here, it's gonna work in the car. So. So I basically left you guys with Sean on the time lapse on Friday when I went to the track with the 350Z, which you guys are going to see that video. Well, actually, you've probably already seen that video. So Sean went ahead, got the engine and transmission installed back in this thing, and you can see now we have the shifter in the right spot. Still need to put the little bolts down in that thing, but shifter is in the correct spot. And then actually what he's been working on this morning so far is basically just getting this thing all wired and ready to start. Basically, it's first start, we're assuming. And
we haven't turned it over. We haven't done nothing. There's no battery in it.
Well, because we drained all the fluids out of it because we did front main seal, rear main seal,
belt,
valve cover gaskets, yeah, timing belt, water pump, VVT-i gear rebuild, all that other stuff. And so right now, Sean has went ahead, looked at all the wiring diagrams, and right now this is basically the first test.
And yeah, this is supposed to be all it pretty much needs to fire it. So this, it'll have the tach, fuel pump, signal basically. That just goes to ground.
This is a ground right here for the fuel pump.
That's for the relay.
You can see the red and black, or the black with the yellow stripe, red or black with the red stripe, and these are all just tied together. And this is just so we could double check
signal, I think,
and make sure that all this stuff works. Cool thing about this whole swap is it literally, like, the stuff pretty much bolts in, plugs in, so you can see all these things. There was only one wire that he had to swap right here, supposedly.
Yeah, and well, so actually I haven't even done that yet, but there's this black wire is MAF power, so we just need to give that power, assuming it doesn't have power from the body harness already. That needs power for the MAF, but switch power, that's
so technically this thing should be, we should be able to, like, plug the key in it, and it should technically start. But before we do that, we actually need to install some oil. The guys over there at Pennzoil actually reached out to me and asked me if I'd like to work with them and start running some of their oil in some of our builds and our projects. I've seen a lot of my other friends and other, you know, video creators and people I follow on Instagram using and running the Pennzoil product, and I've always known about it. I've known that it's made out of natural gas, especially this full synthetic stuff. So instead of being made out of like a petroleum base that comes out of the ground, essentially, the dinosaurs, instead of being made out of dinosaurs,
natural gas too?
This is made out of the actual natural gas that comes out of the earth too. So it starts off with essentially a cleaner base. I'm excited to be trying some of this stuff out. Like I said, they went ahead and sent it over, and one of the first things I did is I went straight to YouTube and was looking at oil reviews, just trying to decide if, you know, their slogan is, I am the proof. Well, I wanted to make sure that when I told it to you guys that I would be the proof and that I would, you know, trust myself with saying nice things about Pennzoil. So that is the plan, is we should be the proof here in a little bit. This is actually kind of the first time that we've tried some of these things in some of the builds. Go ahead and pour it in. I want to see what it looks like. So like I said, one of the first things I did was go to YouTube for a review, and I actually found a guy with a channel called Project Farm, and he basically tested a bunch, 17 different high performance oils against each other. He has like this little machine that does like this anti-wear thing. He does like a cold race. He simulates like a super high mileage oil change and then has like the oil in the freezer and basically pulls it out of the freezer and then has it race down like a ramp. And Pennzoil was essentially the top 3, but it was the #1 oil out of any of the oils that you could technically go to like AutoZone or Walmart or your auto parts store and just get this oil just straight off of the shelf. So top 3 out of the 17 that he tested. So stoked to be working with them and trying this thing out. If you guys would like to learn a little bit more about Pennzoil itself and how the product is made out of natural gas, head over to the link in the description, check it out. But for now, I think this thing is pretty much ready to start. Let's check the oil, make sure it's the proper amount, plug the battery in, and let's see if this thing works. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm absolutely ready.
Look at that. So clear. You can barely even see it on there, but yeah, right on the money.
Hold on. Go ahead. So we're kind of stumped here with this whole 1J swapped deal right now. So basically, if you look here at the wiring, so we have all the schematics, we've watched videos, we've looked at basically everything we can. We have everything wired up as it's supposed to be. So we have all of our powers to the ECU. Obviously, this is the ECU, and then this is the harness that goes to the engine. Here's from the body, so we have, you know, the main relay trigger, the constant battery power. We have all that stuff. Basically, we have a fuel line running to it. We don't have a return setup yet, so we have a return basically running into the gas tank right there. So I can show you guys basically what it's doing. So it's starting, it's running for a couple seconds, kind of sounds like crap, and then it's just dying. It's honestly really weird what it's doing. So basically, let me make sure the key is on. Key's on. And so what we're doing here, basically this is ECU ground, as well as basically this is a ground to the EFI relay, which we're basically using for the fuel pump. So let me get this guy ready. You hear that? That's fuel pump. So basically I'm gonna give 12 volts to the trigger wire to the starter, the signal wire. It'll run, and then it won't. And that's basically all that it's doing right now. So obviously it's losing ignition or losing fuel, one of the two. We're out of starting fluid, so Trevor's gonna run and grab some. So we're gonna try and spray the throttle body with some starting fluid to see if we can keep it running on starting fluid, and then that will tell us that in fact the injectors are losing basically signal from the ECU to continue firing fuel. Why? I'm not sure. This is a non-immobilized ECU. As you can tell, there's no immobilizer plug there. So right now we're kind of stumped. We're gonna figure it out one way or another. If we have to, we'll just do a full standalone ECU. That's what we've talked about too. But right now, this is where we're at. So we're gonna see what happens with starting fluid and go from there.
Here we go.
What is that?
We're installing a coupler.
So we figured it out. We wired up the math.
Tell them who figured it out.
It was both of us.
Yeah.
We didn't have a math.
Just the two of
So
us.
something with the math from past experiences, it should have ran without the math wired up. But I think there's something more in depth where something within the math like completes. I don't know. I really don't know. I just work here. But anyways, it runs. So now I'm gonna clean up all this. I'll show you guys, I think. So we have our return right there. That's our return. We're gonna fire it up. And then only like the last 20% of the throttle works. I think it needs to be relearned or whatever, but. Ready? Yep.
Beautiful. Plenty of air. You can dry your hair in that thing.
So now I'm gonna make this look brand new.
Good job, buddy. All right, we need a drive shaft. So we've been distracted the past basically day and a half because this thing wasn't running. So we're like, we need a drive shaft. We need to put the coilovers on it. We need to put the wheels, the tires. We need to paint bumpers. We don't even have bumpers for this thing. We have the stock bumpers, but they're not nice. And so like this has just been like ruining us because we couldn't figure it out, but now we got it figured out. So now Sean could do what he does best and make it
pretty.
Make the wiring all clean and nice. And then I'm gonna go finish ordering the parts because we still need a couple parts. So we need an intercooler kit. We need radiator hoses. What else?
The drive shaft.
But yeah, we need to do this. We need to do the intake. We need to intercooler.
Well, after the wiring's cleaned up, it's gonna look factory. We'll be able to plow the cover. Boop, right back on. I'm just gonna unpin all these. We'll save them. Just gonna unpin them. So instead of giving them a haircut and having it look trashy, I'm just gonna go and unpin everything we don't need out of basically these two connectors. This one really doesn't do much. There's one wire, I think, on that whole connector for the basically starter signal. So I'm gonna unpin all that, then shorten these so they look like they belong with the stock harness, solder them, heat shrink them, make them look pretty. So then on to the next.
We also found a Supra throttle cable because that's one of the things you need for the swap. So it's a little bit longer. The stock Is300 one is just a little bit too short.
And then we'll figure out the throttle body thing. It either just needs to be relearned or maybe one of the sensors is on its way out.
The blue Supra was doing that too.
Yeah, when we took it to that meet, I couldn't drive. I drove it home on limp mode.
And then after that, it's fine.
It was weird.
But anyhow, he's gonna figure out that stuff. We're gonna get a battery. I need to go find some bumpers.
We have a battery.
I need to get a new battery. That one sucks.
That one's brand new. We bought that battery for this car. All right, well, I'm gonna go to Music Town. You guys are gonna f off and leave me alone.
While he is doing that, we have a lot of other things to do on the car. We're still looking for a front bumper, still kind of looking for a black interior. I think I have one secured for this weekend that we're gonna go pull out. We have this clutch pedal. So like the OEM stuff is kind of expensive, it's kind of hard to get. Excessive manufacturing, they actually make this, which is a reproduction that they actually make in-house, and it bolts in just like factory and then uses an OEM style clutch master cylinder from like a 93 Toyota Celica. So you can see like that. And so essentially there's already provisions in the firewall to mount all this stuff, or at least kind of get close to mounting it. So yeah, essentially we're just gonna go ahead and drill the holes because we actually have to drill the holes. I don't know how we're gonna drill holes. We have to move a bunch of computers and stuff under there. So while Sean is messing with that, I'm gonna be messing with this. The other thing that we really need to do is the drive shaft. Like that's probably what I should almost be doing now, is like figure out the drive shaft and go drop it off. So that way tomorrow, like we could do this like tomorrow, and then in the afternoon, then we could get the drive shaft and then put it in and then hopefully drive it. So then we also, this morning I woke up early. There was a guy on the local Facebook marketplace. He actually had a 2JZ-GTE swapped Is300. So he had the intercooler kit from CX Racing. So that is actually all right here. So he had that on for a short period of time. You can see we have, like, this is the OEM thing. He didn't use that, he had a single turbo on it. All of this, the correct piping and all that stuff to basically mount up for this chassis is all here and good to go. And then this intercooler actually has the brackets and everything on it too. Should mount in, so yeah, basically now we have an intercooler kit that will bolt right on. We have the coil radiator, we have BC Racing coilovers, we have wheels, we have tires, bumpers, and black interior, and that wiring stuff. And then as soon as that's wired and it's like good to go, turns on with the key, then we should be, oh, we also have one other thing that I got from that guy too. So the Is300 fuel system is a returnless fuel system. And so what I picked up from him is he actually had a Aristo fuel pump. It actually has a return on the top of it. And with the return, it actually goes to the correct like Venturi thing. Because there's like a little Venturi thing that like sucks the fuel from like the other side of the pump or the other side of the tank, I think. So the Aristo fuel pump, everything plugs in and is just like normal. And then all we have to do is run like a 3/8 inch fuel line, basically from the return on this to the fuel pump. Then we'll actually have a return style fuel system. I also got a power steering reservoir that he used and upper radiator hose. I already ordered the upper radiator hose kit, but it's not gonna be here for a couple days. So we could at least get this thing running and driving and then swap out some, you know, bits later, but mostly I just want to get this thing running and driving and then get bumpers on it so that way we can take some pictures and videos so that way we can tell you guys that we're doing a giveaway. Maybe we could run some Facebook ads, maybe not Facebook ads, but at least you guys will know what you're going to get with the giveaway, because this is our shortest giveaway yet. It ends March 31st and it is the 9th, and we have to move shops and be out of here by the 15th. We got some things, so I guess let's get her done. We got the throttle cable installed. So the Supra one was actually a lot longer than we thought. So what we actually did, this bracket was flipped around and was actually kind of close up here. Basically flipped it all the way around so it's like upside down, and it looks fine. I mean, it's OEM bracket, looks great. Now we have a full throttle cable. So the little modification that I did in the side worked. Sean got the little vacuum line hooked up right here for the booster. We have on the front, we have the serpentine belt. And then actually now we have the front crash support and this intercooler. So you can see how this intercooler has basically like a step. It's like thicker down here and then a little bit thinner right here on the top. There's probably a little bit of air goes right there. It's kind of an interesting design. You could probably get away with just like a smaller one down there on the bottom, but that was kind of how this kit was designed. And then now we have the piping that we need to hook up to the throttle body and all that stuff. But before we do that, Sean, what did he have? He had the Aristo fuel pump. So we're gonna go ahead and stick the Aristo fuel pump in it now. And then actually we used an evap line from here that we're actually gonna connect for the return. And the clutch and everything is all installed. So now we need a slave cylinder. We need to figure out the drive shaft. The drive shaft, that's one of the bigger deals.
Figure it out now when it's up in the air.
Yeah, so we're getting ready to throw it on the lift. See how that looks. All right guys, so the Aristo fuel pump is installed right here. So you can see Sean already has a little bit of hose going down below the car. So we're going up with it on the lift right now because we do need to get a measurement for the drive shaft. That's gonna be one of the big things that hopefully our local shop can do it in-house and we don't have to order one. Usually we've had good luck with them. We should be able to use the whole rear section and basically just modify the front section and add the W58 yoke to it. So I haven't got to the intercooler piping yet, but you know, all that stuff is ready. But man, it looks like it's so close now.
Yeah, like I feel like yesterday we were like so far away and just so behind, and now I feel like we're back in the game with time because motor's in, motor's wired, like looks great. That's done. We literally have exhaust, drive shaft, wheels and tires, suspension. We have all that stuff.
There's a belt on it now.
Belt on it. We have the intercooler piping. Now
we have the radiator.
Now it's just a matter of basically just throwing everything together. Yeah.
Going ahead.
Going ahead, yeah.
We'll just do that.
We really need to find the bumper, figure out the bumper situation.
The bumper
so we can paint.
And the drive shaft. But I would say the biggest issue that we're having right now is that these bumpers, the rear one isn't bad. There's a little ripple in it right here that I don't really like, but I could fix that. But like right here on the front, you could see where the bumper even mounts. Just that whole edge is just completely gone, and you can see where it was like drift stitched on the car. So that's not gonna do it for me. I definitely would like to just get a brand new bumper, or carparts.com does have them in stock. It would be like a week and a half, I think, before we'd even see it, and we would really like to, honestly, I'd like to have the front bumpers on it by Friday.
I think tomorrow, suspension, wheels, tires, we have all that stuff here. Get that done, get the car like kind of sitting where we want to sit, get the radiator in, figure out the power steering. So we have a power steering reservoir. We're gonna have to relocate it because the factory power steering on this chassis basically sits right here where the throttle body's at. It's not gonna work because the ECU's here, there's no room. So we're gonna relocate it back there basically and just run some lines to it. Simple stuff, but I think we'll get a lot of progress done here the next day or two.
Yep, and the interior is pretty much, I mean, the shifter's in it, the shift boot's on, all that type of stuff. So I guess let's go up, measure this drive shaft, and see what else we need to do. All right, so you guys can see underneath the car, this is our return that we had just going into that fuel bucket.
Here's the hose.
So this just drips down right here, and then this is the hose that Sean has right here. So we could probably
figure out where we're gonna, it's one of these lines right here. One's the feed and the other two are evap, so
we could probably splice that like right in here.
They come over here as well, so
figure out which one is the, well, look at that, there's a connector right there.
So that's for the feed line, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, shifter assembly all right there in the middle, and like I said, the shift boot. So now we just need to put the drive shaft up and figure out the length that we actually need. I have an exhaust coming for this thing. Get rid of this little guy off of the back. Will definitely sound a little better with that going. So this is the rear drive shaft that belongs in the car. So nothing has changed back here. So we still have the center support. And then in the back, you can see where it just bolts on. And then in the front, so this is from the automatic transmission, so this is different. And then
too short.
This is one of the ones where you can't really service.
Not serviceable, yeah.
It's not serviceable, but you could probably service it. It's like one of those things where, you know.
Well, it's not designed to like have a seat clip hold basically the cap in. It's just crimped in. So,
so essentially, I think what we're gonna end up doing is cutting it like right here.
Or let them do it.
Yeah, we'll let them.
And then lengthen this with the other yoke, and basically use the front half with the right yoke of the other drive shaft for the W58, right?
Yep.
On here, yeah.
Look at that, even the OEM tranny cross member, he just had to egg out the holes a little bit.
Yeah,
but
it's not that pretty, honestly.
I mean, honestly, you can't even tell. The bolt hole's covered up, so you can't even tell.
Kind of had to yank it a little bit, but it's fine.
Oh, I mean, it's holding her on there. It's like it was meant to be, and then you can see the exhaust. We got to figure out the little downpipe for it, too. All right, guys, so we got the measurement for the drive shaft. Basically, we just need to add 3.5 inches and swap the yoke from the W58. So I'm gonna drop that off tomorrow morning, but we made a lot of progress on this thing. You guys seen it start and run basically off of the key in there. We had some issues and we figured it out. The 10 times entries for the giveaway ends on Sunday night. So head over to motiontv.com. Check out all of our new t-shirt designs. We have a bunch of them over there. And yeah, appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate the support on this giveaway so far. One of you guys is gonna have an awesome freaking car, but you know, you can't win if you don't go to enter. Check out the links in the description. See you guys later.